Welcome back to another episode of Fantasy Football RPG. We're doing our prospect profile series. Today, we are going to talk to you about a fun little tight end. Well, not little. He's a big fella. Colston Loveland. Evan, what are some of the measurables on the Michigan tight end?
Yeah, so for Colston Loveland, we got right around 6'6", 248 pounds. So we finally have some measurables. Thank you, NFL Combine. From a stats perspective, keep in mind he only played 10 games this past year in college, of which a couple of those games he was banged up as is. But 188 snaps in line, 127 snaps in the slot, 51 snaps out wide. So he was utilized a good bit, a higher percentage than a lot of the other tight ends out wide, which is good to notice. Target-wise, we're talking 82 targets in a anemic passing offense for Michigan this past season, with 56 receptions for 582 yards, which when you factor that into the total team passing yards, it's about 35%. So you're talking somewhere right in that range of the overall team's passing yards. That's awesome. Fantastic. Love to see that. 290 yards after the catch, 7.1 ADOT, 2.67 yards per route run. Did most of his damage in the short yardage area, talking that 0 to 9, and that was 305 of his 582 yards. So you're talking over 50% of the yardage there was used in the mid-range game, that 10 to 19, and then deep a little bit for that 20. But, you know, both of these top two tight ends weren't used deep for their teams a whole ton because they were looking to get the ball in their hands early and often.
Yep. Listen, I wanted to be an Colston Loveland. I really did. But I think the price may get a little too high depending on where he ends up going. So this is a guy where, what do I like to see in tight ends? I like to see a physical tackle breaker who can do something once he has the ball in his hands. I think he's in the right system, could be peppered with targets. He does, fluid mover, able to find the soft spots in the zone, able to sit down, provide a good safety blanket for his quarterback. But some of the early conversations around Colston Loveland have him as this guy that's immediately going to vault and be, tight end 6 in scoring as a rookie. He's going to be a top 10 tight end for years to come. I think it's going to be very system dependent for how much target competition he has. Do they want to funnel him targets? And why would you want to funnel targets to somebody that isn't offering you a ton after the catch? Maybe it was because Michigan was just not, exciting this year. So maybe he wasn't really trying that hard, but 3 missed tackles forced on 82 targets. Is that good, Evan?
Mike, I would say that that's probably not great. I would say that for a full season, if we were to try and play college, we could probably have at least 1. So
well, I think you're giving me too much credit. That's too much. These are very good athletes, but
we could go against a corner,
I don't know if you've seen some of those corners out there, but the bull case for Colston Loveland and the way that he'll succeed is being a short and intermediate target guy where he ends up getting a bunch of targets, becoming a PPR machine, and maybe he becomes a red zone threat because of his ability to find those spots in the zone. My concern is that if he goes to a place that is not interested in funneling him targets, which would make sense to me, he's not going to be a big play threat. He's not going to force a ton of tackles. He's not going to command targets due to what he does once he has it. He's just going to be old Travis Kelce, where he gets 8 yards, falls down, gets the first down, and they're happy with that. Maybe that's something an offense wants to pursue. I don't know if that's the way the modern NFL is looking at it, and I think the Dynasty price may get a little tricky there. So, team fits. These are a couple of teams that have been mocked to him frequently. We expect first-round draft capital, if not very early second. So, Denver Broncos, everyone's going to keep putting them there. The Los Angeles Chargers, for the love of God, get Will Dissly off my screen. And the New Orleans Saints, Juwan Johnson, the ghost of Taysom Hill, insert, Foster Moreau, who we're always rooting for, but he's not a fantasy difference maker. If he goes to one of those places, I'll talk about the Broncos first. He's not the Joker role. He would be a traditional tight end there because he does not have the elite athleticism to be the Sean Payton, Taysom Hill, to be the Sean Payton, Alvin Kamara, to be the Sean Payton. He's used a couple of different archetypes here. I don't know if you would use him that way. He'd use him as a chain moving, almost like wide receiver 3 for the team, which could be fun. How would you feel about him on the Chargers and Saints?
Chargers, at least he has Harbaugh. That is a narrative that will be put out there. Herbert is still a very good, very competent passer. I think everybody should have seen that this past season. For the people that were down on Herbert going into the season, hopefully he proved them wrong. So yeah, I would like, but not love any of the landing spots. I think they have high potential, but I don't think anybody can be talked about as if there was Brock Bowers last year. Nobody is in that category.
Nobody's in that category, but I would like to give you a landing spot that we didn't talk about yet and see your thoughts. The Kansas City Chiefs to sit behind Kelsey until he retires and then because he moves very similar. He's not as explosive. He's not as a young Kelsey, but he can build that mind meld with Mahomes and just immediately sit in and be a 110 target kind of guy. That would excite me, but he would not be very valuable for this year. How would you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, it would take any team that's looking at him in the back half of the first round, and you would have to be one of the rebuilding teams that is looking at that, or a team that maybe has a Travis Kelce, maybe has a Mark Andrews that you're a little uncertain about going through this season with, thinking, okay, how do I address this position in the future? And he would have to be a luxury pick at that point for your fantasy team.
Yep. His current ADP from Football Guys and Fantasy Calc has him at the 201 and Football Guys has him at the 112, right in line with what you're saying, back end of the first, beginning of the second. How do you feel about him at cost right now?
I mean, what's his at cost? He's been getting pushed up to like 110.
Well, let's say at the 112.
Yeah, I mean, 112, sure. I mean, he's a guy that could be a top 12 fantasy tight end. He has the requisite skill set to be able to do that.
He could.
Could be.
But would you rather bet on him at the 112 or Elijah Arroyo at like the 210?
No, I'll still bet on him at the 112.
Okay.
I mean, tight end is such a barren desert of talent that is young right now.
Yep. No, that's completely fair. I think, look, landing spot dependent, talent is good enough there that there is a path forward. If he succeeds, it's as a chain mover, finding space, making it work. He is not going to be the George Kittle turning 70 targets into 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns. He's going to need to be in a Travis Kelce, a young Pat Freiermuth, like one of those situations where he just gets so much volume that it doesn't matter what he does with them. So bottom line, Colston Loveland, a fine bet at cost, won't be the league winner that you're hoping for, but can be a valuable part of your dynasty teams. If you made it this far, be sure to like and subscribe. Send it to your mom. We love you. Evan, I love you. Have a lovely day. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Football RPG Podcast. If you made it this far, be sure to like and subscribe. If you want to check out written content, head over to lastwordonsports.com.
Don't let the goblins get you.